Right, everyone. Have you ever heard the term Deutschland Erwache? Well, link in the description, archived, of course. Liberal legacy media in the West is celebrating the fact that Germany is reawakening. That's the title of the article. I don't think you want that. The last time, do you realize where that slogan comes from and wonder what context it was originally used? I don't think that you want that. It was ended up with the NSDAP actually. This is during the Weimar period. Um, I don't think you want that. Germany is interesting. Several times they've tried to effectively capture all of Europe. I mean, not that other European powers haven't done the same things. Look at Napoleon Bonaparte, for example, in France. Germany currently reigns over a fortress Europe. This is the EU experiment. Have you ever heard of Operation Paperclip and similar efforts by the Soviet Union? When Germany fell at the end of World War II, both the West and the East Bloc powers rushed in to try to grab up as many scientists and engineers as possible because they realized that it would be advantageous. Operation Paperclip, of course, the airlifting out of a considerable number. The U.S. got the lion's share of the scientists, by the way, which is one reason that it won the Cold War. Leading to the space program, NASA was effectively originally engineered by a bunch of Nazis, actually. And they were given clemency as long as they were talented and as long as they hadn't, literally gassed people or something like that. They were airlifted out and generally moved to the United States. And then you get, you know, all of the nuclear projects, rockets, and things like that, the Jetsons and that sort of era, literally born by Nazis. Now, this considerably influenced U.S. culture. The civil aspect of U.S. culture changed considerably as a result of the efforts of mainly former Nazi Party officials and scientists that, the ones that weren't executed or escaped like Adolf Hitler did to Argentina or some people to Brazil on rat lines. By the way, again, I have to say it's not a conspiracy theory to say that Adolf Hitler managed to escape because the piece of jaw and tooth that was originally identified as Hitler's from the burn pile right outside of the bunker turned out to be that of a female. And the Russians discovered that and said, shit, I have a feeling there was a cover-up at the time. Hitler escaped, they couldn't find him, and so he went to Argentina, probably Buenos Aires or something like that, and died in exile. And they didn't want to admit that to the public because it would have caused massive outcry and probably another war. And so they said, well, he's out of the picture. There's nothing we can do about it. We're probably not going to be able to find him. Just as long as he's not raising hell or something, he's not going to be a public official. Let's leave him alone. I happen to believe in that particular conspiracy theory. I think that he died in the 50s at some point. Without his daily injections of cocaine, he probably didn't last too many years. Here's the thing. It is a bad idea to root for a German reawakening consolidating Europe because it's literally the same plan that the NSDAP had. It's just under a different economic model. Take Russia, for example. The Russian Empire never died. This is something that you will not hear in history class. It didn't go away. All it did was change socio-political and economic models. So instead of czarism and pseudo-feudalism, now all of a sudden you had communism. But it's the same goddamn country. When the United States transferred away from its original tariff-based system into what we call free market capitalism, didn't erase the United States or fundamentally change it. All it was a switch in the economic model. When the United States adopted progressivism, which I say is regressivism more than anything else, it didn't magically erase the United States and turn it into some different entity. It just meant that there was a different civic model that was being employed. After the Civil War, when the antebellum period ended, the rather laid-back, laissez-faire model, sans the slavery would be perfect, by the way, was replaced by a system that was more centralized. Did this erase the existence of the United States? No. Likewise, when the Soviet Union fell, other than the jettisoning of certain territories, it's still Mother Russia. It's just under a different socioeconomic model. It makes no difference. With Europe, if you put the Germans in charge of a fortress Europe, the only difference is that they're using statesmanship instead of Panzer tanks. It makes no difference. It's the same end result. And it can only end badly, by the way, especially to people in Eastern Europe who are always caught up between Germany and Russia anyway, the Polish, the Hungarians, and so forth. Why do you think these particular countries are more averse to the EU's policies than most others? And then in Western Europe, of course, in an agrarian sense, like with the Netherlands and France. Why do you think that is? Because Europeans, you need to awake, you need to erwache, to the threat of German dominance over the entire continent. And they'll share joint power with the French very gladly, because, they can override them anyway, due to economic aspects. They grab up the nukes and the rest is history. You do not want this. This is a bad idea. The European Union experiment should devolve. What you need is devolution. It's good that you should have free travel and free trade within Europe. That's a great idea. When I was in the Netherlands, for example, I was able to go seamlessly over into Germany. All you do is drive across the border. There's no border control or anything like that. But would I, living in the Netherlands, let's say I was Dutch, or let's say, I was residing in the Netherlands still, do I want German people deciding the local policies? No, that's not a good idea. Europe should be for Europeans, number one. It can be cosmopolitan. There's no problem with that, but generally for Europeans. But it doesn't need to be centralized behind one specific socio-ethnic bloc. That's not a good idea. This is basically you've created a fortress Europe, sans the UK and a few countries that are landlocked and therefore don't really give a shit. You've created a fortress Europe economically. Now the Germans are pushing to create a fortress Europe socially and militarily. What does this sound like? Read your goddamn history books. What does this sound like? Are you insane? You must be batshit. There's a reason why the UK pulled itself away from that shit and went westward ho and now is more a partner of the United States than anything else. They see the writing on the wall. A terrible idea. Germany is reawakening. I don't think you want that to happen. Western leftoids are goddamn insane to even want such a thing to happen. I mean, I'm reading the title of this article and my eyes glaze over. I'm like, what the fuck am I even reading? It makes absolutely no sense. No, you don't want the friggin' Germans in charge of all of Europe. Simply, Orange Man bad, ergo the Germans good. That makes a whole lot of sense. We've seen this before. It's a unique facet, and I don't mean to insult German clankers. I realize that not every German is on board with this kind of globalist scheme. I understand that. But your government is completely out of hand, totally authoritarian. It's trying to spy. It's literally doing the same thing that was done in the Weimar era, by the way. Adolf Hitler, for example, was originally a spy for the conservative movement. He was sent in to go to the meetings of the nationalists, which now I guess would be the AfD or something. Well, kind of inverted. Never mind. I won't bother getting into that in this video. He was originally sent in to report on the meetings that they were holding, to pretend to be a member of what would become the NSDAP. And in that period of time, the German government was trying to monitor these smaller political groups, them, the communists, and so forth. Hitler never would have even risen to power or even necessarily had political aspirations had this not happened, by the way. He got indoctrinated while he was there and then became effectively a double agent for a while and rose up through the ranks, leading to what happened. Because in the Weimar period, you had economic problems, you had social problems, you had civil strife, and so forth. And so The two sides fed off one another, vampirizing effectively the old political elite during the Weimar period. It becomes a big problem, as we can see from the millions of people who are dead and buried as a result of that particular war. It's happened before, and it seems to be happening now. You do not want a German-centric Europe. If anything, you should put the goddamn Dutch in charge. Because then things will be bright colors and people smoking weed and shit like that, and I don't think that'll be a problem. It's a big problem for the entire world if Germany reawakes. Literally, the title of the article, properly translated, would be Deutschland erwacht. That's concerning. That's about all. Peace out.